And action, and welcome everybody. This is PnP Weekly episode 164. It is 2nd of May 2022, which is pretty horrifying. I have no idea what happened for spring. Well, May is still spring, but you know,
there is no spring.
Quite fast. There is no spring anymore. So in the PnP Weekly, we talk about the latest on Microsoft 365 as a whole. And we typically have a visitor in the show as well. We've been having actually a visitor for the past 100 episodes, which is really good. So, but we did have an episode at some point when we didn't have visitors, right?
Yes. Yes, correct. That we had episodes where we didn't have a guest. And I guess that is mainly due to our omission. We just missed it. It's just as simple as that.
Yes, exactly.
Like you wake up, you see the, it's like, oh yeah, there's a show. Oh, we don't have a visitor.
Yeah, typically we do have try to schedule this few weeks forward. This week, Elio Struyf is joining us. He's doing multiple different things. Works within Rapid API company for the Visual Studio Code tooling, but also does quite a lot of open source and community stuff. And you might have heard about Elio Struyf before. He has been an MVP in Microsoft 365 area for, what was it, quite a few years.
He's a star. He's an MVP. He's an open
MVP,
source
GitHub Star.
Personality. Yes,
exactly. He's everything. So it was really good to catch up with him. We already recorded that session, so let's jump in there in a second. Before we go there, my name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a product manager in the Microsoft 365 platform, and with me as a co-host is Waldek.
Hi everybody. My name is Waldek Mastykarz, and I am quite pleased to be here. And I am cloud developer advocate for Microsoft 365 at Microsoft. And as I said, I'm
quite cloud advocate.
Quite pleased to be here.
I'm quite advocate.
I'm quite
an advocate.
Yes. Yeah.
Quite an advocate. Cool. So let's actually jump on. It was you this time, by the way. It wasn't me. So
yeah. I mean, like, I even paid attention. Like, will you get your job title right this time around? Yes, you
got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be somebody. It's like, you know what? Okay,
exactly. Yes, we were this close. To get it
so
properly done. So, yeah, exactly. But let's jump on the interviews with Elio, and then come back on the weekly articles from Microsoft and community. So welcome Elio Struyf to once again on the PnP Weekly. It is 4th time we clearly are running show on ideas of visitors, right, Waldek? No, just kidding. It's good to catch up with Elio as well. on
that
his
bombshell,
latest journey. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, next week.
Thank you. I feel very honored to be here.
No.
So appreciated.
No. We are among friends here. So Elio is here for the 4th time, but you've been actually, it's been a pretty long time since last time you were actually here. So it's been 1.5 years or so.
Yeah.
And some things have actually changed, but you're still doing work across the development on Microsoft 365, at least partly, and all of that stuff. So we wanted to have a catch up on what's happening on your side of the world. And you're doing huge amount of work in the Visual Studio Code extensions, across the whole thing, and open source and all of that stuff. So which is a really interesting discussion point as well. But before we go there, can you do a quick intro as who you are and what I do for a living?
So hello everyone. So for the people that don't know me or that didn't follow up where I'm now in the world, I'm still in Belgium, so that didn't change. I'm still living close to Antwerp, that didn't change. Still biking, that didn't change, or
that's good.
Changed a
bit.
bit.
His wife didn't change.
No. And still two kids, that didn't change. But I changed careers, so I'm now not 100% working in Microsoft 365 anymore, but more on a total different side of the spectrum. Still development, but more on, like Vesa already mentioned, on VS Code extensions. So yes, I do partly the open source stuff there, but also now working for Rapid API, which does everything around API management and creation and so on. And I'm working at the developer tools department there. So we are creating tools for developer to make it easier to find APIs, create APIs, test out APIs, and so on. So that's a whole different thing. It's a fun journey, not working on Microsoft 365 anymore. Not that Microsoft 365 is not fun to work on, but it's like a whole different context, and I had to put my mind somewhere else for some time just to trigger me for learning new stuff. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah. Are you with the tools that you build? Are they tied to any cloud, or you build tools to build APIs and deploy them anywhere you want?
Yeah, indeed. So what you can do is Rabbit API has a service like they always see themselves like a app store, but for APIs, like an API store. And what you can do as a developer is you create an API, you link it to the store, and then people buy your API via the store. So we are a proxy to your API, but you can host it wherever you want. So if it's in Azure, if it's in Google, it's up to you.
Cool. How does that work? Wait a minute. So now I need to actually, because that was my question as well. So what does that mean in practice? So what does the creating an API and publishing APIs mean in practice? Just to clarify, is this the classic story back in 90s or whenever bits talk, and then we have a centralized API catalog from where you go and say, hey, give me the list of APIs, and then you can say, okay, I need to connect to SAP or whatever the other applications. How does that all work?
Yeah. So we have the public version and we have an enterprise version. And actually, the enterprise is the same as a public one. Only the difference is that the enterprise version will be installed within a company so that you do discovery of APIs inside your company. And APIs these days are the most important thing. That's what gets your business running. Before, when we were doing development, it was like, let's create an application and the application does this 100%. Everyone started using it, but these days you have the no-code solutions, the low-code solutions, and the developer solutions. So what brings together all of these solutions is APIs. So if you want to get data from SAP to another system, it's an API that is going to bring that kind of things. So that's why the API hub is there. Or the enterprise hub that you can put inside the company, and then a administrator can start creating that catalog of APIs and can also do management of users that can actually access the APIs and so on.
Yep.
The same kind of hub exists in the cloud, so that you as a developer want to, for instance, go to a weather API or Twilio for sending SMSs. Normally, what you're going to do is, oh, I need to send an SMS. Okay, I'm going to Twilio and I will order that kind of a service. And, oh, I need to have a weather alert system. So I need to go there. And before you know it, you have 20 of these services. And you're starting to pay for these 20 services each and every month, and all individual invoices and so on. So what we can do is bring all these APIs together, have one invoice, but still allow you to contact these services because they all register their APIs to our platform. And with one API key, you can just call any of these services. So it's also much easier to just call in, send an SMS instead of, oh, Twilio authenticates via this method, and then this weather API authenticates via that method. No, they are all now on our system, and all that information is integrated in there.
So there's a certain level of abstraction and standardization across the APIs,
yeah.
Then, and the authentication.
What you can also look at it as the Microsoft Graph does for the whole Microsoft 365 platform. Like, it's a proxy on top of another API, and it works the same way.
But with that, I wonder, what does that mean for SDKs, right? Because, like, imagine you are API provider for payments, and you have an SDK. That SDK knows of my APIs that I build, but doesn't know about my APIs exposed through Rapid, right? So what does that mean for people who want to connect to an API, so want to benefit from all of your work, but also want to benefit from simplicity of using an SDK that does all of the different things, like, error handling, performance improvement, and so forth and so on?
Fairly good question, but then you're targeting your own APIs in that case. So if let's go back to Twilio, they built an SDK, then they are not going to think about people connecting via Rapid API. Or maybe they do, but I don't think so. So it's more on our end that we then have to create some kind of an SDK in order to contact all of these things. And that's also what the team that I'm working on with right now is also going to focus on bringing capabilities like that inside Visual Studio Code, inside your code projects, and so on.
And languages and all different runtimes and all that, yeah.
So from an API and data endpoint provider, they could make the decision not to invest in SDKs and not to invest on the sales and not to invest on anything, but they would then go through the Rapid API. Is that kind of one way of approaching this as well?
Yeah, another one is you have the advantage of if you're having your SDK inside our portfolio, that you can get easy visibility to other developers, where you can say, hey, we are doing like SMSs, or we can now send out SMSs. Maybe this is an interesting service for you. And you're building something and you're trying to search, and before you know it, you say, hey, this API, that sounds also interesting. Let's connect it and then get more data there. Like there were a lot of use cases 2 years ago with Corona, where we had a lot of these APIs that were providing data around how much cases were there in country X, Y, Z. So then they saw that they had a lot of these services just being extra consumed because more input from different sources meant that there's better platforms, dashboards that were being created for companies, for hospitals and so on. So it was pretty easy for them to just integrate with another API instead of looking for the data themselves.
Yeah, I think it is exactly that, right? So it has the benefit of a catalog where people already are. And if I have a place where I go as the go-to place to find APIs, well, the more folks are exposed in there, the bigger the odds that I will find things that I might need. And there was also another thing that I wanted to say, and I lost the train of thought. But yes, it is. Oh yeah, another thing is that, like, if you think about, let's say, API for payment, like that doesn't, like, you will not build an API that only does payment, right? Like that app will probably do other things too. And that is, I guess, the power, because you will need an API that does payments, but you also will need other things as well, right? So instead of me going on scavenger hunt across the internet and find the different things, like I can go to a single place and find whatever I need in there, and use that as entry point for everything, and also find other things in a single place. So I guess like that, yeah, that makes a perfect sense for a vendor of service to expose their APIs, because like you kind of have the app store benefit that you get.
Yeah, it's a simplification on your code base as well. Instead of calling 20 different of these services, now you're only calling one. Security is also better because you don't have to check all these services. We have all the security measurements in place. But still, if you want to do it on your own end, you only need to focus on one endpoint.
Yeah. Yes.
Makes sense.
And
Makes sense.
yeah, and also it's easier probably to monitor. So do you also offer services like the ability to monitor the APIs that developers use in their apps eventually, right? So imagine that I build an app that has few things, like let's say weather, text, and payment, right? So these are the three APIs that I will use in my app through you. Do you also allow me to have a single API to call to manage if these three APIs are available?
Yeah, there is a testing tool as well. So you can also test it out or test out your whole flow. So you can also do that online. So like how you would do asserts with jest, for instance, in your code base, you can just say, okay, if a user goes to this page, clicks on the checkout button that calls this API, sends this data to another API, and so on, you can just configure these data flows inside the test suite, and you can either run them from within your company on a Docker container, or you can run them locally, or you can let them run in the cloud, so that you can do that whenever I do a commit to GitHub, that an action is going to run, check if these APIs are going to be able to run. If they do, send it out. But the same thing can be done on, are they available, yes or no?
Gotcha. Cool.
That's pretty interesting, actually. And it's if you think about Microsoft Graph, the idea is kind of the same. If you think that from a centralized API perspective in Microsoft 365, and then we have the individual providers through Microsoft. So, idea is actually quite cool. And kind of a classic scenario as well, catalog of APIs. It's good to see that somebody is actually finally making that reality, because it's been kind of in the IT industry world since mid-90s, and we're gonna have this catalog of APIs, and then you unify
services, IT
services, exactly,
services,
whatever they were called
building
at the
blocks.
time.
Yes. Well, I guess like
and although
everything else, especially within enterprise, right? The hardest part is to keep it up to date. You have to have somebody who is aware of everything new that is being built. 2, keeps everything up to date. So when there's an update where things are obsolete or updated, extended with new things, that they are being added there. And when somebody thinks of something new, ensure that, hey, maybe we have something else already that is kind of the same thing, and maybe we could more easily extend that as opposed to build yet another thing that is almost the same but not quite.
And it's also funny that we are the only company that actually is focusing on this portfolio. Yeah. So in the market,
that is odd, isn't it?
I wasn't aware of it neither when I started working there, because my focus was first on the developer tool spectrum. The whole enterprise hub or the hub perspective, that's another side of the business. They are coming closer and closer together nowadays. But in the beginning, I wasn't even aware of it. Like, okay, for me, it was as it was. People or companies were doing this there, but eventually none of the enterprises are actually doing that. There is a catalog, or people know, like, we have this kind of a service, and then somebody else comes by and says, hey, do we have this kind of service? Let me think. Oh yeah, we have that as well.
Exactly.
But now, this is the first platform that actually combines all of it. And there are platforms that do it, like on Azure, you also have API management. They do a very similar thing, but it's not a complete suite of these tools that brings everything together.
And as they're saying, the information is transforming to be the gold mines, and really combining the information from multiple systems. So it's really critical that, especially in the larger customers, we have LOB systems, they have factories, they have ensemble pipelines, whatever. They need to be 100% up to date on what's happening, what's the loss of, let's say, whatever products as part of the manufacturing, and they can then combine that information. And if you think about IoT business, the IoT, there's so many devices nowadays blocking data all the time. Then the question is, how do we use that data, and how do we are aware of all of those things which are available inside of company? That's really interesting, actually, really interesting.
Do you
have any open seats in the open career person? No, just kidding.
Yeah. There was another thing I wanted to ask. Do you also think, like, when you think about the dev experience, do you also think about things like building connectors for that folks can use in Powerapps and in Power Automate flows? So that would be kind of your, I don't know, call it an SDK or simplified way to use the APIs you expose?
Not right now, but this has come up because we have great people from Microsoft actually that came over to work for the company, and they actually worked on the Power Platform, and they are thinking about it. So
perfect. No, but I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? Because, like, as you said, the whole low-code, no-code movement has significant amount of attention and traction. Exactly, right? So it makes perfect sense, and Microsoft isn't the only player in the field doing that. So. Like, it's just like, yes, you have an API, but if you would think about trying to connect to a raw API from within Power Automate Flow, like, you don't want folks who aren't aren't technical to fiddle with HTTP calls and connectors. No, I think you want to offer them a connector that execute that takes all of the auth away and just does a call, brings back data that's already parsed, and as opposed to JSON string and now user, you got to find your own way around the blob you just got, right?
Yeah, but there's also so many things happening around APIs these days, like GraphQL. It's the very first time that I start using that as well. It's nothing new, actually. It's just built on top of REST APIs, but it's so much easier to consume or get data and to provide data back and so on. So there's actually quite a lot of these things. But that you now also have to think about, like before that, it was only consuming an API. Now it's actually building tools to consume, but also to support all the other APIs. And apparently still SOAP is being used. So
oh yeah. And I mean, like it's exactly that, because you also have things like gRPC, you know. So like, and to what extent do you want to put yourself in place where you offer a middle layer between APIs you expose and the user, adding these abilities like GraphQL, gRPC, and whatnot? Or to what extent do you say, well, if the person who built the API offers that, we expose that, but if they don't, we don't too. And then it's, at the end of the day, developers need to find out that if they call this thing, it has it. If they call this thing, it doesn't. Right?
Yeah. And coming back to the developers, when I was in San Francisco in February, the kickoff event was all about like developers.
I heard about that one before. That's good.
Well, I mean, he just said that people from Microsoft joined, so.
But not that person.
Steve B is in the house.
No, but then the focus changed as well, that we started talking about. It's not only developers anymore, it's more makers that become very important as well. So the hub capability there is very important for makers, because it's a tool that is a browser tool that you can just go to, see the APIs and start consuming the APIs, because you get the URL, you get your keys and so on. You can start testing it out inside your browser. Really easy to get you started. Connectors is indeed another thing that we have to think about. But which the low code of no code platforms are we going to support, or are we going to integrate with? That's another thing that we have.
Exactly. Yeah, cool.
That's really, really interesting. Now, let's go to another side of your, let's say, time, or the working time, what you do with just open source and tooling and all of that stuff. So as part of your work with the Rabbit API, you're doing Visual Studio Code extensions for them, but that's not just the only open source and Visual Studio Code stuff what you've been doing. So can you talk a bit about Front Matter and all of the other things which you've been doing? So.
Yeah, I think.
Why are you doing this? Why?
GitHub Star. He is a GitHub Star. We told you to talk about that.
Yeah, that's true. That changed as well over the last. It became a GitHub Star. It's like the what Microsoft MVP is for Microsoft is what a GitHub Star is for GitHub. So, and you get a lot of specs, so a lot and stickers and hoodies.
The one on top right, like on your
that
all
one
the way,
as well.
on the top, all the way up.
Yeah, Octocat is there as well. So you get these kind of things. Pretty cool, pretty interesting program. Also funny to see how GitHub, which is nowadays a Microsoft company, works in Slack. So all the communications happen in Slack, not via Microsoft Teams.
But they're independent, and I guess it's actually good that we keep them as an independent, they're completely independent division, so that they can have their own decisions as well. Makes perfect sense. So,
but coming back to Front Matter, beside Front Matter, I have a couple of other extensions. I just love to automate my life, but also make it easier for others. And Front Matter was one of these extensions that I created like in 2019 when I moved my website from WordPress to Hugo and started building a tool that could make it easier for me to work with the front matter of your Markdown pages. Like front matter is the metadata of your page. I think once back then I was working with Waldek around how I think you were using Jekyll
metadata. Yes, correct.
Yeah, and how it fit into his workflow and then in mine. And I created a very simplistic tool around that. Worked. And then I didn't really touch it for more than 2 years because it was just working the way I wanted it for owning my blog process or writing process whatsoever. And then last year when I had my accident and I wasn't allowed to do any actual work that could potentially bring in money, I had to find something to keep my mind busy. And I said, hey, what if I create an actual CMS out of front matter? So the idea was already there. What was only missing was time. And last year I had the time for it. So starting from July last year,
you had time.
Just have an accident and then you have time enough.
What?
No. You don't follow that example.
No, that's I won't recommend it either. So there are some downsides as well involved with it. So, but that's another story. But yeah, started to do a lot of these extra time or spending extra time for front matter. And in the beginning, I said, okay, let's make it a simplistic CMS. And nowadays, it's like some people say that it's not really a CMS. It's more like a UI layer on top of your content. But what is a CMS these days? Or in a headless CMS, it's a UI layer on top of your content. And the way you publish it to the cloud is depending on which CMS that you're using. And what I try to do with front matter is, you bring in your framework, static site generator or whatsoever, and you can do the content management with front matter and then publish it again with what you like to use to publish it with. So quite a lot of these things have been involved, and that's how I got into the picture of Rapid API as well. So
yeah. So basically, you were creating open source extensions in GitHub, and then Rapid Circle pinged you and said, "Hey,
Rapid API, Rapid Circle,
sorry,
company."
Good point. But they pinged you and saying, "Hey, we're looking into somebody to do these kind of things for us." Is that the way it happened then?
Yeah, indeed. There was a post last year, I think somewhere in October, that got a lot of attention, and all of a sudden there was a developer advocate from the team or from the DevRel team in Rapid API, and he wanted to have a conversation around front matter. Okay, I said. So I thought, maybe he just wants to use front matter for his own blog. So we started a discussion. And after 15 minutes, I said, this doesn't feel like a normal discussion.
That is interview, right?
Yeah,
like, the call they
like,
you an offer, like, wait, what?
Yeah, indeed. So I said, what are you trying to tell me or ask me? Is it like, we want to work together with you, and I just wanted to see how you worked and what you did before, and how front matter works and inside out and so on. Yeah. So before I knew it, I was in a developer interview, or in an actual interview.
So that's a good example of actually where the open source and community contributions generated you a real job, right?
Correct. And also in a total different area that I was working in.
Yeah.
So for me, going to a company that works within Microsoft 365 was pretty easy because they mostly know me or used something that I provided already. But this company didn't know anything about me. So and they just used my GitHub profile and then front matter as
You're a star. Resume. You're a star. So I mean,
back then I wasn't
just your GitHub profile.
And on the other areas of GitHub, I need to call out that, of course, you are the original creator of the PnP Spfx controls, aren't you? So it was you and Stefan. Among other things. So because of the PnP Spfx controls are quite widely actually used more and more every single month. So it's actually interesting to see the growth on them as well. So But there's like a trillion of projects which you've done in your past related on other things. But then the front matter was the one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There are still a lot of these tools that are there and are actually being used. I think the one that is still used the most was the developer or the debug configuration one for Spfx. Still has most of the installs, but then there are a couple of others that I still like to use and use myself on a daily basis.
So as part of moving in that, well, working now in a Rapid API, I'm getting the company name right. So, but you're not looking into then stopping doing the open source projects or anything like that, or what is the end goal? Is this just fun to be a hobby-based project and people are paying for doing these things, or what is
for me? For me, it's fun. For me, coding is like a hobby, and yeah. The less I code during my daily work, the more I will code during my spare time. So the team that I'm currently working in, it's a one-man job right now, but we got green lights to actually build a new team around me. So I will probably be leading this team, and then I will start managing other people, which means that during my spare time, I will likely, during my daily job, I will be coding less, but then after working hours or in the weekends, I will try to still find. And take my laptop on my bike.
Yeah, exactly. So no, you don't want to do that. That's
that can lead to
accident.
Yeah, exactly. Like
no, but if you like to develop, then developing is also a hobby. So, and I still like to do these things. So I don't think that I will stop working on these projects. Of course, there's always a project that's get dependent or archived, or no, I don't archive. I just let them be. So maybe they come alive somehow. So
yeah. And just recapping also, you're still an MVP as well. So you are Office Developer MVP, just
correct.
Yes. So because we have this weird situation where some of the MVPs are Office Apps and Services MVPs, even though they do development. So your Office Apps and Services.
That was me. I was that 2-3 years ago, and then all of a sudden I switched. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So you were moved on other side because it's an interesting. I think Paolo is an Office Apps and Services MVP, which is a bit of a strange thing, and AC Andrew Connell is as well, which is a bit of a strange thing as well. But
Well, but these are all the folks who were MVPs before there came distinction between OS and Office Dev.
That is true. Yes, I guess that's the thing. I guess we need to do something on that in the Microsoft, or adjusting at least the term, because even calling it as an Office Developer MVP sounds a bit strange. So have you done anything for Office, Elio?
What is Office? I use Google these days.
Word,
No.
Office is
Outlook open.
Of course, great product, but
I'm sending emails.
Yes, you're a developer.
And I'm doing development, so I'm an Office developer. No,
well, so in the past 6 months, have you sent an email with inside a piece of code, or maybe attachment of a code?
You can't attach. Can you still attach code in the?
Well, I mean, you could attach a zip with code in it, but that would mean like you're Office developer because you're using no,
probably not.
I'm really trying to stretch the definition here.
Before Slack and Teams, you did do that, but since Slack and Teams are there, I don't think we should ever do that again.
Well, nowadays you will create gist, right? And you just point people like, hey, like there is a link. You can find all the code there.
Yeah, or you just create a code snippet within your chat and work on that.
Yeah.
Now, from a timing perspective, we need to close in pretty soon. But Elio, as a highly experienced person in open source community, GitHub Star, MVP, and all of that, can you do, let's say, 3 to 5 tips for somebody who's looking into making a career through this kind of a channel as well? what's the thing what drives you? Any tips for anybody younger person who might be looking into, I want to do something like that when I grow up?
It's actually funny because you get a lot of these questions by a lot of people from the moment you are becoming an MVP, or when I became a GitHub Star, you're getting all of a sudden 10 of reactions of how do I become this kind of person, or how do I get it?
Yep.
I always recommend people to just do what they like to do, and then in the end it will come by itself. Okay, you have to work for it, but if you don't like to do the work, then why should you actually care about that star or that MVP badge or whatsoever? So just do the thing that you love, and then in the end, the more you like it, the more you will do for it, and then it doesn't cost you energy. But the moment it starts to cost you energy, will that badge or that whatever you get from it, is that going to give you the energy to go the extra mile? I don't think so. So just do what you like, just do what you love. That's going. If it brings you energy, keep on doing that. If not, do something else in life.
Yeah, that's actually really good guidance in general in life, and also related on the MVPs and GitHub Star. The end goal is not to get an MVP status or a GitHub Star. It's just the kind of that is the acknowledgement of consistently providing value for the community, and hopefully people will keep on doing that. It's just the encouragement on, yes, you're doing the right thing, please keep on doing the same thing. We've seen in the past quite a few MVPs, or some people who got to MVPs and then they disappear because maybe that was in their bucket list, and maybe then it wasn't the thing which they loved to do, but it was in a bucket list, and that's fine as well. If people want to find another, let's say, passion, that's how life works. So. But good guidance for sure. That wasn't 3 tips, but that's a really good point.
No, that's one.
So that is one that is all encompassing, right?
So love what you do, like what you do. Don't
make a kid a goal.
Yes.
Like
cool.
What you do what you like, don't do what you don't like.
Yeah, that's actually really good. So. Cool. I guess it's time to close up the interview. So thank you, Elio, for catching up again. Really cool discussion. It's actually interesting to have perspectives and insight outside of the Microsoft 365 world as well. At the same time, of course, you can use the Rapid API surface through Microsoft 365 application and through Azure. So it's not like it's completely 2 different worlds, as it's not. It's the same. Everything is in the cloud nowadays. So.
Correct. And Microsoft is an investor of Rapid API, by the way.
There you go. The world is small.
Exactly. So, but thank you, Elio, for joining us. Really cool discussion. Good to catch up, and good to hear that the back situation and all of that is getting better. So it's all fixed. So,
thank you very much. Thank you for having me. So, speak to you soon. Or
I guess we will have you back in 50 episodes or so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's a deal. And then from here, we'll jump to the weekly articles with Waldek. But thank you, Ilya. Really, really cool stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Now, thank you, Ilya, one more time on a great interview. Good to catch up. That was number 4 interview with you on the weekly PnP weekly show. Guess what? PnP Weekly happens weekly.
Bi-weekly. It's a bi-weekly show. Then we go weekly.
It's unless we are on a summer or holiday break. Anyway, so let's jump on this week's articles. So thank you, Ilya, one more time on that one. So we have, let's jump on the articles and let's see what we have happening within the past week. Now, sharing my screen.
Yes.
There we go. Excellent. So let's start with a monthly summary from the Microsoft Teams organization side of the on the April 2022 summary. Let me a bit zoom this. These are the great monthly summaries, which are Microsoft Teams is doing this and Sharepoint is doing this as well, including then Viva and other areas. But calling out all of the new features which we're rolling out. It's actually, these are great also for internal people, because then you realize what are the features which are already rolled out, because every now and then you see features, you're like, oh, that's cool. I can't talk about it because I don't know if it's already rolling or not. So, but a lot of again, really cool stuff and a great summary on the new features and capabilities which are available across the stack. So there's a calling devices, improvements across the whole Microsoft 365 platform, and from a UX side of house, that looks pretty neat. Wouldn't need it for home, but still.
Why not?
And then why not? Because it's that's fair.
Just have a thing on your desk that you don't need to start when there's a core. You can just say on and it's there.
That
would be actually pretty awesome.
But then the background noise removal probably doesn't work that well as with this one. Because this one is so. Having 2 dogs and a kid, that means that you need to have a background noise removal unless your office is somewhere else. Anyway, so really cool blog post in there related on things, and a few developer side as well. So there's a messaging extension, entry points for workflows and teams, and automation templates in Microsoft App Store. So good to have new functionalities available. So thank you, Teams organization, for that. Then we had an announcement related on general availability for in-app notifications.
Exactly. Cool, so that is pretty cool thing, right? Like when you build an app, imagine that something is going to happen in the background, or that is more of an interactive app, and you want to be able to notify users of a change. Like in the past, you would need to build all of that yourself, like the whole mechanics, and now that is available as a part of platform for Powerapps. So it is a really cool thing towards helping you more easily build really rich apps on Powerapps.
Absolutely. This is great that there's a centralized way of doing those notifications rather than every single developer trying to figure out their unique way of doing things. And then the end users like another thing to follow. Come on, I'm already doing WhatsApp and messaging and all of that. And can't we just have a unification? So
the key is in the just word.
Just.
No, we don't.
Yeah, it's
just
the same as
world aligned.
Yes, like a one-time zone across the world and all of that. Why can't we? But it's almost the same as more and more we are seeing on the Microsoft Teams, also the activity feed being the one where we can see things and getting, of course, Powerapps, and then Microsoft Teams activity feed more overlap between each other and all of that. Yeah, maybe in the future. But this is already a great step forward on having a centralized way of doing things. Now, then on the Power Platform side of the news, we also had a blog post related on customer stories and how to combine the Power Platform and Azure to go faster. And this is really about the fact that when you use the native Azure functionalities, you can actually build more robust and more scalable functionalities for sure. And Power Platform integrates really easily on that. And that this is basically a set of stories and architectural examples for making that happen. So really very cool. Again, getting inspiration from whatever other people are doing within the platform, which is always a good idea. Related on getting inspiration.
Exactly, right? So from the team that is building development tooling for building Teams apps, we have a new or updated docs around how you can set up CI/CD pipelines for your apps. And with that, I automate deploying your apps to your test, UAT, and prod. And the guidance includes most common environments like GitHub, Azure DevOps, Jenkins. And the cool thing is that there is a CLI you can use to create, or at least the initial setup of pipelines, to get that instantly, as opposed to you having to figure out all the different steps, dependencies, and whatnot. Yep. You will use the Teams.fx CLI, run a command, you will get the starting points, which you can obviously adjust to your needs, but you have that 80%, maybe even more, already done out of the park, and you can adjust that. You can work on that, so you can more easily set it up. It's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, and it's great to have script templates available for easy automation. So just starting points, these are really, really valuable stuff for Microsoft Teams development. Now I'll come back on talking about the inspiration and talking about the ideas, what you can build on things. We have two events happening. One is happening a bit later in May, which is the Microsoft Build. So you should register on the Microsoft Build. You might have heard about it. Sure, this year Microsoft Build is still remote, and that means that there's no costs associated to it. So everybody can join. You can register to that. You can then see all of the sessions which are available and then sign on those. So there's again a live shows, and then there's the on on-demand videos, which will be available through the website. So that means also that you can consume to build content on your own what is it? On your own terms, on your own schedule, and whatever it works for you, which is great. Of course, it would be great to get back on the in-person conferences as well. During the weekend, there was a reminders in one of the social media platforms from, was it 8 years ago, when the build was in San Francisco, and then having dinner with a few friends in there, and then there was a build session and all of that, and that's actually pretty cool. So reminders of the old times. I guess we'll get there maybe in a year. So we'll see. We'll see. Or maybe not. Maybe it's better this way. So it's more inclusive. Everybody can get access on the information through this on-demand model. So anyway, the second thing, which is a bit time constrained, is happening Thursday this week.
Exactly. So two of us, Vesa and I, together with 5 of our MVPs who are experts in their field of expertise, are going to run a 2-hour online event that everybody can join for free, no cost associated other than 2 hours of your time, to learn how can you tie different building blocks from Microsoft 365, such as Teams, Viva, Microsoft Graph, SharePoint, Power BI even. How can you tie all of that to build a compelling solution for your business that you could use today, right? So the idea is that as we get back to work, you might still be in a place where you need to book a seat, right? So we're going to show you how you can use everything that your company already has available, Microsoft 365, and turn that into a compelling app that you can build with your org that will take into account how people work, what are the different things that they need, the insights, the info, and bring that all together in a single compelling experience. So definitely join us. If there is anything you want to ask related to the event or not, bring those questions to us. We'll have 2 hours dedicated time for you to, on one hand, show you stuff, but also answer any question you might have. So see you there on Thursday, May the 5th.
Yep, May the 5th, which is really, I'm really looking forward to this event. It seems to be that we have quite a few people registered for it already, so which is really promising.
Use a few more. We wouldn't mind.
We can always use a few more because it's a remote event, only 2 hours, and anybody can join. It's free. So good. Then we had a few updates related on our blog platform. So first of all, there's new blog articles in the Microsoft 365 platform community, but then we did actually change the location. So something what happened last week, well, it didn't happen last week. It was a knowing a decision. It wasn't like, oh my God, now it's actually in a new location. We moved away from tech community to a specific location where the blog is located. So you can access using all of the AKMS addresses, but you can also go PnP github.com, github.io/blog, and this is the Microsoft 365 platform community blog. And from here, you can then see all of the community call recordings, like in the tech community in the past, but also more articles and from the community as well. So one of the reasons it's always like, why I keep on changing this location? We know, and it's a bit of a always a bummer to do that, but this way we are all in the GitHub platform. So this means also that anybody can contribute, anybody can adjust the articles, or suggest changes. We are more flexible from a managing perspective. All of the information is actually stored in the GitHub as well. And it's using, for example, Elio's Front Matters CMS system to actually publishing things and managing things. So we're kind of taking advantage more on this open source community-driven thinking and tying this underneath the Microsoft 365 community location. So rather than having it as a separate one in tech community design. So that's kind of the thinking here, and we are committed on keeping this here now for years to come because it's backed by GitHub. It's basically easily maintainable. Good, and editing is so much easier with Markdown rather than the limitations what we had within the tech community, unfortunately. But on this platform and in here, we have a few different new articles. So let's start with a style your command bar with formatting magic.
Exactly. So we have new article from JC Gebert About exactly that. Like, how can you style your command bar with new features that you have? And we're using different things, right? So we're using, apparently at top, we use jQuery, which you could do. However,
yeah.
be mindful that it depends on DOM. DOM is not an API. It could change. So there are different ways, like the view formatting that is more reliable, more, you could say, contemporary way of doing things, because that is something that we at Microsoft are committed to maintain. Like there, it is a contract of sorts that we have with you, not to break you. Whereas a DOM, well, DOM can change, right? So we wouldn't recommend that anybody takes any dependency on DOM, because like as things evolve, and nowadays in a cloud they evolve fast, that DOM might change, and then whatever you have changed on top might go away, right? So in this article, you will learn of the few options that are available to you in case you need that kind of adjustments.
Yep, really cool stuff. Thank you, JC, on that one. Then we had an update on the CLI for Microsoft 365 v5.2. I guess that you're the better person to actually talk about this one. Waldek.
I was just about to ask, like, hey, you want to go about it?
I can,
exactly.
But
so,
yeah.
So basically, every single month we release new version. This time it was v5.2, again with a few adjustments, few improvements, right? So we have new commands around managing things in Planner, in Microsoft Teams. We have new command that allows you to upgrade your SharePoint framework projects to version 1.15.0 beta 6. And the interesting thing about that version is that it introduces two things. So one is the ability to customize forms. And I don't know for how long we've been talking about it, asking for it. It's available there now. So it's about time for you. If that's something you waited on for a long time, you can try it now. And with CLI for Microsoft 365, you can really easily upgrade whatever project you have to this new version. And then two, there's also another cool thing. You can now use directly within Spfx the Graph.js SDK v3, right? And that is also a cool thing. Why? Because the version v3, compared to the v1 that we had in Spfx in the past, v3 contains a number of improvements around performance, batching, middleware support, all of that. So all of that is in there for you to use, and you don't need to load it by yourself. The Graph.js SDK v3 is now available as a part of Spfx. So there is no additional burden for you to introduce in the environment. It's already there for you to use. So that is also a cool enhancement for you to try. And along with that, like we have a few more improvements as well in CLI. So I would definitely encourage you, together with our whole team, for you to give it a try and tell us if there is anything you like, dislike, you would like us to spend some more time on. We'd love to hear from you.
Yep, absolutely. Really cool stuff. Then we had a blog post from Louisa Fries on how to rename files in SharePoint with Power Automate. And again, a great blog post from her related on Power Automate and Power Platform usage, and then hitting those right APIs underneath the underscore API. And then understanding the headers and body and all of that stuff, which can get a bit complicated, but again, it works. It's a RESTful API, so you're able to do all of these operations, and it's great to reference for the future for making that happen in the Power Automate. Then we had a blog post from Leon Armstrong related on SharePoint syntax, testing out new refinement rules.
Exactly. So apparently we have available new refinement rules for document understanding, right? So in his article, Leon goes through what's available, what's new, what are the different things you can do with that. If syntax is something that you either use or are interested in using, this article is a great way for you to understand what's in there, how you can use it, what's new, and potentially what problems these features could solve for you. So definitely check it out.
Really cool stuff. Thank you, Leon. And it's great to see the constant evolvement now on SharePoint syntax, because then that's really the document management services of SharePoint, automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning related on that. There's a lot of really cool stuff and features in here, which we're seeing gradually people adapting, which is great. Thank you, Leon, on that. So then Stefan had a new blog post, Stefan Power, on accessible colors in Microsoft list formatting, and really focusing on the importance of the colors for from an accessibility perspective, and related on how they are, how they're impacting the readability of or understanding what's on the screen, depending on who you are. And different ways of doing things, and the high contrast and inverted themes and all of that stuff. So Stefan is really the specialist related on understanding the importance of these styling elements as well. So Stefan is great on these topics.
ELDR, he is expert in UX.
Yeah.
And everything that it involves, from typography, colors, icons, usability, and so forth and so on.
Absolutely. Now, then Joel Rodriguez had a blog post on PnP data rows to update document field values.
Exactly. So if you have files that you want to update in a batch, or you have files or list items that you want to update as a part of creating your sites, there is a way in PnP provisioning to do that. And Joel shows exactly how you can use the XML structure to include the metadata along with the data you create in provisioning. So definitely, if you do that and you have that requirement, that is a great way to go, because there's no additional way for you to, or there's no need for you to use anything else on top. It's already baked in the tooling.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And then we had a blog post from Api. This is from Api, right?
Yes, Arbeidslandskap.
Where is it? Where is it saying that it's from? Where, Api? Where's your name?
Maybe all the way down.
I guess it's all the way down, so that's fine.
Well,
anyway, so I was confused. So, and Api, yeah, there we go. Using low-code for categorized meetings in Outlook. This is actually a really cool thing as well. So basically having a level of artificial intelligence related on your meeting creations, on tagging them based on the content. So how could you do this using the Power Automate? And there are ways of accessing that information. And for example, based on the subject or some other entry, you can then do setting of the category, and then the category setting the colors for the meetings as well. So really cool stuff. Thank you, Abby, on that one. Then we had a new article from Agnes Molnar.
Yes, and she wrote a short article about a tough topic of the licensing. As we all know from the past, it's complex. It depends on many different variables. And with that, it's a thing that people often think about, like, hey, how does that work? What do I need? I want to do X. What do I need, right? And it depends often because there are many things involved. And Agnes tries to simplify things where she can, especially around connectors for search, right? So she lists few things that she hears a lot about, and she also includes a link to the more comprehensive docs or elaborate docs on the licensing. So if you're in this field and you're interested in that space, check it out.
Absolutely. Laura Kokorinen from Sulava had a new blog post related on how to create your first team spot and deploy it to the Azure. So really cool walkthrough, and she's doing always great job on going kind of end to end. So starting from scratch and really walking through the steps of creating the resource groups, creating the Azure bots, creating the associations, creating the team creation, or the association to the team, creating the application and deployment and all of that. So really making this easily followable thing, and then you understand, okay, so now that I have this team bot, how would I deploy that? Not just basically explaining how to create it or using the automation, but just really walks through step by step the process for doing that. So really cool stuff. Thank you for that. Then we had a new video from April.
Exactly. So in her new video, April tells us about how you can interpolate strings in Powerapps. And so what is interpolating strings, Vesa?
It's string manipulation.
Putting you on the spot.
String manipulation. String manipulation.
Yes, exactly, right? So you have a large strings, and at some places you want to inject values. Like, hello, first name. That first name. Instead of saying like quotes plus, you can make it more easily manageable and readable by having like tokens.
Yep.
And apparently there is a way to do that in Powerapps. So if you're interested in that, check out this 7.5-minute video to learn how to do that.
Yep, really, very cool stuff. And Paulo had also a new video on his Piazza's Tech Bytes series on using the PnP People Picker control in Spfx solution. And PnP People Picker control is the one controls which actually associates the People Picker functionality in the in your web part or whatever solution you're actually using or building. It could be a Teams application, of course, as well, whatever you are then building. But it's a reusable control for that functionality, which is really, really cool. And then the last video was from Shane. His weekly series kind of as well. It's not really a series, but new videos anyway.
It's SharePoint troubleshooting and updating with Powerapps and Power Automate. And it's troubleshooting SharePoint data problem with Powerapps. So apparently you have something doesn't work as needed or as expected, and then you can use Powerapp and Power Automate to troubleshoot that, which is an interesting way to approach it. On the other hand, you can use whatever tools you can and to fix whatever issue you have. So in that point, in that sense, it makes perfect sense, right?
Yep, absolutely. Anyway, so thank you, Shane, on that one. Cool videos for sure. So let's do check them out. But that's it for the articles and videos this week. Anything interesting happening on your side?
Always.
Thursday, 2 hours.
Yes.
You don't want to miss it.
Exactly. So that is one big thing. I think we're doing the final preps, double checking everything will work as smoothly as it has to. It should. Other than that, it's the time of year at Microsoft where we look back at the past half year and look back at what we've done, what went right, what went wrong, what we can learn. So I think I will need to spend some time on that. I'm also working on wrapping up a new thing that I hope I will be able to tell more about soon. And then we're trying to talk more and more about, a while back, we worked on this POC around Angular. How can we help Angular developers build apps for teams? So we have a POC available. It is a package on NPM. It's available. It's out there. If you work with Angular, we would appreciate if you could give it a try and tell us what you think, if that's something that you would like us to evolve, build out, expand with additional features or not. Because it's like, well, I mean, I already found my way, or I would need to have at least X, Y, and Z more, right? So there is that. I think that these are the biggest thing. And then for CLI for M365, business as usual. We keep adding new features every few days. What about you?
Of course, Thursday is really, really important thing. Then we do have the classic 2 community calls happening this week as well. So on Tuesday, we have 3 demos on the Microsoft 365 platform call. Really, really cool stuff again queued up. And then on Thursday, we have the SharePoint Framework, Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework call again happening, which is the bi-weekly call. A lot of that planning, and we already started doing planning on the summertime and how are we going to do all of these calls and community engagement during summertime, because we need to start getting ready on that at this point rather than realizing in July that, oh, everybody is on vacation. What do we do now? So, which obviously doesn't happen across the world, but especially in Scandinavia, since it's really dark and not sunny winter time, everybody is just centralizing the vacations on summer, and that means that
and you go.
Exactly. and then on winter time, as it's dark, you'll be just working. So, but it's getting all of that ready, and the build is now already completely done. There's some on-demand session. Sorry, the planning for that one still related on the one-to-one consultations and what do we have? AMA sessions for build, roundtable. That's what
Ask me anything.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So, but business as usual, so to say, a bit of a more relaxed setup so this week, which is good actually. Starting to catch up on then other things which are pending on the. It's not like there isn't things to do, but there isn't anything urgent what you need to do right now as a priority, which is great. So, yeah, and that leaves then time for some creative mind as well. Maybe, who knows? So, We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching, and thank you, Elio, for one more time on joining us today for this discussion, and we'll be back within a week. Thank you, Waldek. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Vesa. See ya.